So I know in the previous lecture we were talking about giving an additional example of what visual literacy might look like. And so what we're going to do is take a look at a New Yorker cover from 6 years ago. So those of you that are familiar with the New Yorker, you understand that there's each issue, and it's usually weekly, has a different illustrator. And there's some illustrators that you'll see time and again, you learn to recognize their style, right? But the New Yorker is kind of like a literary cultural magazine that is often associated with very highbrow literature. So if you're an author and you get published in the New Yorker, uh, you feel like you've made it. So just to give you a little bit of background on that. Uh, Not that there aren't many other publications that are worthwhile, but that's how it would feel for many people. So anyway, if we're looking at this cover, right, we can take a look at some of the terms that we were talking about in the last lecture. So what are the different frames found in this image? Now you'll notice that there's lots of frames, right? You have all the different frames that are existing on these tiny screens, right? And you have the frame of this whole cover, but then you also have the frame of the stage, right? And there's this little group off to the side, but you can't see beyond them, right? So all of this has been cropped to affect your opinion, right? The illustrator decided that they would show this particular part of the image. Now, if this were a real life photograph, right, you would know that there were things occurring beyond what we see, right, to the right and the left, and even behind these initial people here. But in this case, the illustrator has controlled the image, right? And that's important to think about, why the person decided to draw this space in particular. Now, if we look at some of the other terms, right, foreground versus background, you can see that these screens and the silhouetted people, right, are in the foreground, whereas the stage with the players or actors on them and the musicians, well, the musicians are kind of the middle, but these actors, right, are in the background. And that could signal that the screens are the more important part of the image, right? And this may be the point, right? Is the idea that the people viewing are so caught up in capturing it that they're actually missing the actual play, right? Now, if we think about the colors used, again, this is a very muted palette. So you don't get necessarily a sense that something vibrant is going on, right? And if you think about different symbols, I mean, obviously the screens are symbols of themselves, right? But then you also have something like the American flag. I always remember that being in all of the schools and the Pledge of Allegiance and all that kind of stuff, right? And then depending on your interpretation, these also could be symbolic of a particular time period. I don't feel like we get enough detail to make a guess about that, although I mean, they do look a little old-timey, and yes, I just made up a word, although I have a couple of friends that use it, so I didn't make it up, but I'm not sure you'll find that in the dictionary, right? So as far as true to life versus abstraction, I mean, this is a true to life situation. How many times have you gone to a performance, even concerts like Coachella or some type of well, I don't know. I'm thinking of Coachella where like people are enjoying the music, but they're so in tune to their screens that you almost feel like it's a removed experience, right? And that in and of itself is an association that I'm having, right? That I can see. Sorry, my Apple Watch is ringing. That's professional. Anyway, so that's an association I'm having, but I'm also reminded of this time when my little sister is several years younger than me, so I can remember going to countless plays of hers, right? And again, everybody had their phone out taking pictures. So the associations can often be based on personal or public things, right? But all of these contribute to our understanding of an image. And it's so important that we look at those. So when we're thinking about visual literacy, right? These are some questions that we can ask ourselves. And I think that, certain ones of them stand out more so than others. Why did the ad's creator place the objects in this manner? How do these colors add to the viewer's impression? How is this ad framed? And when I view this ad, what images, issues, personal memories come to mind? So these are some questions that I will list in your next exercise that you can use to help dissect an image of your own, or of your own choosing, I should say.